Hi, I'm Felicia.
And I'm Giancarlo Campiano, and this is our review of Dungeon Lords. Alright, Lords of Evil, grab an energizing health potion because this review is going to be off the hook. Or rather on it, because that's what you want. You have the biggest, baddest, sickest, and why not most torturous dungeons amongst your peer. Defeat those do-gooder adventures before they turn your place into a verdant, sunlit garden of goodness. Ah, my eyes! Speaking of eyes, they'll pop out when you see all the components that come in this box. There's so many that even want to write a list of the components in the rulebook, and I'm certainly not paid enough to count them all. Instead, let me just show you. You don't just get one board, you get many. You got your minions, trolls, and cute little imps. Get to work! You got your gold, food, first player token, damage counters, etc. You got cards, so many cards, for battles, orders, titles, and traps, and tiles for adventures, monsters, events, tunnels, and rooms. Am I forgetting something? Probably. Is the learning curve and setup complicated? Yup.
Okay, G, let me take over. We have a game review to do. Every player gets a dungeon board according to their color and the order cards for that dungeon. Place the progress board, the building site up, the central board next to it, and the distant lands board off to the side somewhere. Give the first player the starting player token. Place the progress marker on the far left space in the progress board. Shuffle the event tiles and place each face down on their space. In the distant land board, place the damage counters in their space. Now make sure you place the silver tiles, year 1, over the golden tiles, year 2, in their respective space like so. Then give each player 3 minions, 3 tunnels, 3 food, 3 gold, and 3 imps. Place the rest in the central board in their respective place. Don't forget to put your player tokens on the evil meter in the starting bar and placing the trap cards deck, combat cards, and paladin tile first year on top of the second. Each player places the components they received on their dungeon like so. From his order cards, he takes 2 at random and places them face up in the inaccessible order space here. You are now ready to play.
The game takes place over 2 years, each with its 4 seasons and further phases within those, fully illustrated on the progress board. These range from placing rooms for sale, putting monsters in the tavern, revealing the event cards, and the adventurers who'll be coming to raid your dungeon. You have the issue order phase, the production and order retrieval phase, retrieving your imps, and passing the first player token phase, assigning adventurers to your dungeon phase, and lastly the combat phase, which happens at the end of the year, in which you flip the progress board to the other side, turning it into the combat board. The rulebook starts with a combat training scenario, which is very well written, so let's get into that as well. When the combat board is set up, place the combat cards from the central board with the topmost to the far left and so on. You'll notice that there's only place for 4 cards because that represents a maximum of 4 rounds that can be played in combat. The combat ends when either all adventurers are imprisoned or they conquer 4 rooms or have no rooms left to conquer. Use the progress marker to show which step of the combat you're at, the first being the planning phase. The adventurers will attack the tiles that are closest to the entrance. Then you must decide which traps you want to play on that tile along with monsters. The sequence of the steps in battle are visibly illustrated on each dungeon to remind players of the steps. They are always performed in that sequence. So traps go off first, damage modified by any rogues in the party, followed by quick spell battles if any wizards in the party. Then monsters usually attack the first adventure, and these as well are placed by specific rules, like the stronger ones will go to the most evil reputable dungeon, and warriors are always first in line. But some monsters have abilities to attack other characters behind the enemy line per se. Then the slower casting spells go off, again if any wizard is present. Then healing occurs if you have a priest in the party, and only if combat was initiated. Then there's fatigue damage, followed by conquering if any adventurer remains. Then you proceed to round 2 and repeat the process to a maximum of 4 rounds. Note that the paladin is a one-man army of goodness which counts as all classes and is extremely bad news for you. However, capture him and he's worth more points than the other adventurers. There's different rules on combat in tunnels and combat in rooms, but the rulebook and training scenario is really well written and concise that should answer most of your questions.
The other part of the game is the building and preparation phases, which takes place before the end of the year in which combat occurs. Without strong management abilities, your dungeon will be a cakewalk for the adventurers, and you'll have a reputation of well-mannered Betty Crocker. One of the most important phases will be issuing orders. When they're revealed, the first player puts his minion on the action of the first order he chose, followed by the second player, and so on. Then the second order is performed, placing his minion on that said action. If a minion is already there, just place it on the same action but one step down, and so on. There's only room for 3 minions, so if a fourth minion should go on the action, it stays on that order card instead, stating he can't execute that order. But you can then take back that order card. The actions are then executed by your minions. The action always starts from top left, which is get food, to bottom right, which is build room. The first minion on the action performs his action first, but being first doesn't necessarily mean it's best. If you notice, sometimes being second is more advantageous. That's where skill and strategy becomes vital to this game. Timing is everything, and managing your dungeon will become an art after playing more than a couple of games. You'll want to hire monsters, but have enough food to feed them or gold to pay them come payday. And don't forget to put money aside for the tax collector, or you'll get a black mark which reduces your points. There's lots to think about in this game.
Yeah, I mean, really, this game is intended for gamers. And we just roughly scratched the surface of the rules of the slightly simplified version. That's right, there's even the full version of the game. But for those gamers who want a challenge, who want something different than most games they've played, who aren't afraid to take the rulebook and own it, the time you put in is well worth it. Also, I must say that it is best played in 4 players. If you're less, you'll have to manage the non-existing players dungeon as well, and that might get overwhelming. But you got 4 competitive, prideful mastermind gamers in your group, then this game is for you. We loved how in the second year the stakes are higher, the adventurers get more buffed, the monsters get more beefed, and the paladin becomes a holy terror of radiant cleansing. He makes Mr. Clean look like a filthy little... you get the point. The rulebook is spot on, with great example as well as humor. They knew it was going to be a long read, yet they made it enjoyable for anyone to get through, and that gets props. Enough! Get your Lord a dungeon out and spread your evil reputation and terror into the hearts of weak-willed men. We give dungeon lords 9 tainted dark depths out of 10 level dungeon.